one of the big mistakes that I made was I did all the work myself in the beginning of my career, doing my own flips. I did all the painting, the tile work, and the construction and everything. And I would never ever do that now, because if I'm working on a house, then I'm not looking for the next deal.
Welcome to the Rental Property Owner and Real Estate Investor Podcast, brought to you by the Rental Property Owner Association, providing benefits and services to real estate investors and rental property owners for over 48 years. With your host, Brian Hamrick from Hamrick Investment Group.
This episode is sponsored by Green Property Management, managing everything from single-family homes to apartment complexes in the West Michigan area. Find out more at greenpropertymgt.com. And Mike Murphy at JB Harrison Insurance, helping real estate investors to understand and choose their best options for all their insurance needs. Call 616-868-0050 or email mikem@jbhins.com. Hello and welcome to episode 156. My guest today is Cameron Gaskill. Cameron didn't start in real estate from a place of wealth or privilege. He was struggling to make ends meet, living paycheck to paycheck, and telling people that he wanted to be a real estate investor. And some of those people laughed at him. After disaster struck, he decided to make a change, and he's since rehabbed and flipped over 800 houses in Florida. Cameron will also be one of the featured speakers at Michigan's largest free landlord real estate investor conference and expo, which is happening February 21st through 23rd of 2019 in downtown Grand Rapids, Michigan. Cameron's topic will be rehabbing and flipping for profit. Cameron, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for speaking at the RPOA's annual conference. We're looking forward to having you there.
I'm looking forward to being there.
Why don't you give us a little bit of information about yourself? I mean, it sounds like you got an interesting backstory, so I'd love to hear about some of the struggles you went through in the beginning.
Yeah, I was living paycheck to paycheck and kind of going nowhere. And the tragedy that you had spoke of was really I had gotten what I thought was a good opportunity at a job. And when I got there, I was given the news that two different managers had hired for the same position. So I kind of got the short end of the stick and wasn't able to keep the job. And the issue for me was that they had some movers come and move all my furniture and belongings from the state of Florida to the state of North Carolina. And because I didn't get the job, they weren't willing to pay for the movers, and I only had $200 to my name. So it was a little bit of a predicament. And once I got myself out of that, I realized that that wasn't the life that I wanted to live, where I needed to rely on somebody to help bail me out. So I got into real estate investing shortly after that.
Wait. So before you go on, so that's extremely
Sure.
disruptive. I mean, they hired you for the position, but then realized after you had already moved and set up the movers that they had hired someone else as well, and so they had to choose.
I was
between
actually
the two
in
of
a
you?
hotel. Yeah, I was in a hotel getting ready to because my apartment wasn't ready. I had 2 more weeks until the apartment would be ready. So they said, "Well, we'll just put you in a hotel for the first 2 weeks until it's ready, and the movers will hang on to your stuff." And the morning of my first day on the job, I got a phone call at the hotel giving me the wonderful news. So I never even made it into my first day, and
They just left you hanging.
I was pretty upset. Yeah. I actually went out to the lobby, and I walked outside, and I sat on the sidewalk, and I just started crying. I literally just sat there crying. I didn't know what to do. I wasn't near my house. I wasn't near where I normally lived. I didn't have any friends, family, anything to turn to. So I spent about 30 minutes just sitting on that sidewalk, and then I finally stood up and said, nothing's going to get any better just sitting here. I need to do something. And what had happened was I ended up finding a job interview. The guy said he couldn't interview me because he wasn't in the city. He was on vacation in a different city, which happened to be where I was. And while he was on vacation, he asked to interview me that morning and hired me on the spot. And then he gave me the money to get my furniture back and took like $50 a week out of my check until it was paid off, which took like a year and 3 months. It was like $3,500 that I needed. So it was quite a situation, and I felt very fortunate to get out of it. And but it made me realize that I wasn't in a place that I wanted to be, that I couldn't get myself out of any kind of a situation, or that I ever have to ask somebody to help get me out of a situation. I didn't like that.
Well, that's just an outrageous situation to begin with. I mean, and the fact that they would just leave you hanging there without paying for your moving fees. I mean, what a What a crappy company. It's a good thing you didn't work for them.
Yeah, probably. It all worked out for the better in the long run. It all paid off, because had that not happened, it might not have sent me down the road of real estate investing.
Yeah, so let's talk about how you started going down that road.
Sure. I ended up coming back to Florida, and I didn't have any money really, so I kind of was doing a lot of reading on real estate investing, and I got hooked up with a wholesaler, and I bought a couple of properties. And in the beginning, I pretty much made all the mistakes that you should make, which is probably why I ended up where I am, trying to teach people not to make those mistakes. But I made a lot of mistakes in the beginning. I bought 2-bedroom, 1-bath, bought them in bad neighborhoods, was trying to flip them. And what had happened was, because of the market, I got in in 06. I was able to do cash out refis then, and put enough money in my pocket to that kind of substituted for the profit that I would have made if I'd have flipped it. And then I got to keep the house as well and rent them out. So I started to build a rental portfolio that way until the market got tight, and then the banks weren't loaning anymore. And then I just adjusted my strategy and started just straight flipping to end buyers. And that's been kind of what I've done ever since. So, I got lucky. I started with no money. Because I was able to buy with no money, I kind of continued to do that. And even when I got money, I still use the same strategies, and I've just always been doing it ever since. Now that I have money, it definitely has opened bigger doors for me to do more things. But I still try to leverage it. I still try to use other people's money if I can, and I use my own sometimes. I've gotten into not just flipping, but also wholesaling now, rental properties, and as well as I also lend to other investors.
There's a lot going on there, but I kind of want to go back to how you got started in the first place. I mean, it sounds like you were working paycheck to pay, living paycheck to paycheck, wanting to become a real estate investor. Like, what even turned you on to the idea of real estate investing? Why did you think that was a good idea to go down that road?
Well, I've been in construction my whole life. My father was a contractor, so as a young boy, I was in the construction industry. And I was actually framing houses. And then I did that for about 8 years. 4 of those 8 years, I owned my own construction company in my early 20s. And then I went to college, got my degree in architectural drafting and design, because my original plan was that I wanted to build, sell, and design my own houses. But when the market had changed, and being somebody who didn't have any money, that really wasn't a very good option. So when I started doing all this reading about rehabbing houses, I thought, because I knew so much about construction, that it would be easy. I was very wrong, because there's so much more to the business than just knowing how to do construction. And when I had mentioned them making a lot of mistakes, one of the big mistakes that I made was I did all the work myself in the beginning of my career, doing my own flips. I did all the painting, the tile work, and the construction and everything. And I would never ever do that now, because the more if I'm working out on a house, then I'm not looking for the next deal. So I spend more of my time doing that. But that was the reason why I thought that would be a good strategy or new way to make income, was because of the construction that led me down that road.
Yeah. So it seems like, having the background that you do, having framed houses and having the architecture experience, you see things differently than probably a lot of investors. So I'm curious, when you look at a house, what do you actually see when you look at it?
That's a great thing that you brought up, because I have noticed a lot of people have a hard time walking into like an ugly house and seeing what it's going to look like as a finished product. Whereas I don't have that problem. I can see, whether it's outside of a house or inside of a house, I can see exactly what it's going to look like when it's done. It's just going through the process. That's probably just from years of being in construction, but it doesn't mean that if you haven't done construction, you can't do this. That's not what I mean by any stretch. It's just, that was something that kind of came easy to me. But yeah, I can go into a house. I kind of know what I'm looking for. I know what kind of house I want to buy. I know what my end product needs to look like. For me, it's a very cookie cutter business. That's how I built the business. I use the same things in every house, the same colors, the same tile, the same products. And it's exactly the same. So the end product, it may have a different layout, but the overall look of the property is always going to be the same.
So what are some of the things you like to see when you look at a house, and what are some of the things that make you say, no, I don't want to have anything to do with this one?
So I like to buy 3-bedroom, 2-bath minimum 1,200 square feet. And we do kind of what we call appeal to the masses. We've tried to figure out what do most people want. In the beginning, I used to kind of try to design everything and as if it was my house, and then I had a harder time selling than when I just did what most people wanted. Things that I don't like are like slopey floors, even though I'm a contractor, and I'm a state licensed contractor. I can pull permits and things, but I can lift a house up, straighten a slab if I needed to. But there's so many deals out there that it's just kind of, those are the ones that I sort of stay away from sometimes. Usually when you get houses with bad foundations, bad floors and stuff, and you go to straighten and get everything right, a lot of other things are going to happen when you do that. And so you could get your rehab estimates could go a little higher than what you thought they were when you start lifting up walls and windows break and other things start getting crooked because somebody has made it look straight before. It can cost you some money doing that kind of stuff. So I don't really like that. But as far as like fire damage doesn't really bother me. Mold, if it's not too bad, doesn't bother me. I don't like houses that don't have a good natural flow to the layout of the house. So if there's a house that has, say, 3 or 4 additions to it, usually those houses just don't flow very well for me. So I'm looking for a house that's got a good natural flow. Basically, the way it was originally built is a good flow, and then we can just update it.
I'd like to take a moment to tell you about Green Property Management. Not only do they manage everything from single-family homes to apartment complexes in the West Michigan area, they also manage my entire portfolio. So I can tell you from personal experience that their unique flat fee management style is worth a closer look. If you feel that your property isn't operating to its fullest potential, then Green Property Management can help you take a holistic approach that will save you money, eliminate your headaches, and increase your net income. And if you're a property manager interested in applying Green Property Management's model, give them a call at 1-866-95-GREEN or visit them on the web at greenpropertymgt.com. Once you get a house that meets those requirements, where do you start and what's the process you go through to get it to that point where you can sell it?
So when we find a house that we're interested in, the first thing we do is we try to work the numbers and make sure the deal's going to work, put the offer in. If it gets accepted, we get a closing date. Now, once we get that, we kind of really start moving. We want to be able to get started on the project like the day after closing. So I go ahead and get I have a construction company, so I still hire my construction company, or my real estate investing company will hire my construction company. So whether it's mine or somebody else's company, an investor still follows the same rule. But you find the construction company, you walk with the contractor, you get everything, your scope of work figured out, you get all your subcontractors lined up and materials, if anything needs to be ordered, you kind of get all that stuff ready to go. And as soon as you close, you can get going on the construction. If you're new at this, I suggest going out to the job site quite a bit to check on your subs, because if you haven't done this for a while, then you need to build that trust, that relationship with the people that you've hired. As you've done more of them, you can back off a little bit and spend a little bit more time finding deals rather than checking on all your jobs. But you have to build that relationship with them first. But getting the construction done, you want to hire a contractor that is investor friendly, because if you hire a good contractor that's done, say, remodeling for homeowners, the prices are going to come in a lot higher than what's going to work for your budget. Whereas if you work with somebody that's rehabbed houses, they understand, time and money is a little bit more important to the investor, and they can get it done a lot faster for you and get you the quality that you want. Once it's finished, when we get done with the house, we always stage it. That's something that we always do here. And that seems to really, really decrease our days on market, which is very important, because if you do have any money that you've borrowed, if you have a hard money loan on the house or anything like that, then that's going to save you some money if you can get it sold a lot faster. And the other thing is we sell pretty high. I mean, we sell at the top of the market. and every now and then we'll push it, but we really pay attention to what is the market doing, or what is that specific neighborhood doing, what's the average days on the market there. If it has a very high days on market, then we'll try to drop our price a little bit to get it out quick. If it has a low days on market, we'll put the price up a little bit higher and challenge it. But it's all about getting in and getting out as fast as you can and moving on to the next deal. Because for me, what has made me successful is quantity. It's not so much how much I make on each deal; it's about how many deals I can do.
Yeah, and you've done over 800 deals in Florida. Where is that? Where you're primarily located and doing business?
Jacksonville, in Jacksonville, Florida, and I've rehabbed houses from Jacksonville down to close to Tampa. We went all through Orlando for a little while, and down into Kissimmee, down there by the Disney and stuff. But we primarily do stuff here in Jacksonville.
So, having done so many rehabs, what are the top areas, or what do you typically have to tackle every time you do a house?
Everybody's different. For us, the product that we want to put out is everything's new. Or for most of the stuff is new, because when a realtor brings a buyer into a house, and what we're trying to do is get the realtor to tell the buyer, okay, let's go look at the next house. I want the buyer to say, what's the point? Why should we go look at anything else? This one has a new roof, new AC, new kitchen, new carpet, new paint. What are you going to show me that's any better than this? So we really kind of go the extra mile to give them what is a house that you can move into and not worry about spending anything on the house to repair it, fix it, update it, or anything for the next 5 to 10 years. And that seems to have worked pretty well, because, if a homeowner sells a house, a lot of times they'll only fix a few things. And then when the new buyer or the people move into the house, they might have to fix the roof in a couple of years, or they might have to update the AC or update a bathroom or something in a few years. And I think people really like to move into a house knowing that there's not any big expenses coming up in a while.
Does that mean you're doing a top to bottom, like gut rehab?
Yes, pretty much. Pretty much. We don't really do we call it lipstick rehabs, where you just go in and kind of paint and carpet, move in. There's so much competition in that arena that we just sort of stay away from that. We do a lot of the bigger rehabs.
When it comes to rental property insurance, understanding the costs, choices, and benefits can be overwhelming, and finding the right insurance provider can be frustrating. I had one company cancel 5 of my policies all at once for no good reason, and that's why I'm happy to have Mike Murphy from JB Harrison Insurance on my team. Mike is an independent agent who has always been able to find the right policy and the best provider for my insurance needs. Over the past 5 years, Mike has not only become my go-to insurance agent, he's also helped me manage risk, add value, and save money. If you are looking for insurance on a new acquisition, or you believe it's time to get a more comprehensive look at your entire portfolio, then Mike Murphy is the independent agent to call for all your insurance needs, auto, home, and business, at 616-868-0050, or email mikem@jbhins.com. And what does that mean then for, say, like the kitchen or the bathrooms?
So for kitchen and bath here, one of the things that's really popular now, and I'm sure it is everywhere, is this gray. Everybody likes the gray, the wood plank tiles, white shaker cabinets. That's kind of where everything's going. Whereas when I had started, everything was brown cabinets, dark granite, beige, tans. And we did that for probably 7 or 8 years of the exact same thing. And then because of what the customers or the consumers want, we decided to change over to the different color. But we still follow the cookie cutter model, where it's just, okay, let's change the colors, let's change the cabinets, let's change everything, but it's now going to be this all the time. So right now what we find is for kitchens, white shaker cabinets, wood plank tile, tile backsplash, stainless steel appliances. It's pretty much standard what we give all the houses that we do.
Okay, and I want to ask you about contractors too, because I know in the beginning you one of the mistakes you made was you were doing all the work yourself, and since you know how to do it, that made sense. What was that transition like from bringing in contractors, especially given I'd assume that you were very particular about what kind of work you wanted to see done.
Yeah, I was really particular. When I first got started, I remember the first few houses that I bought, my wife and I, we had full-time jobs at the time. So it was every night, every weekend. We were there painting, hanging cabinets, laying tile, just whatever needed to be done on the house. And we enjoyed it, and we thought that was the right thing to do. But we didn't really know that there was other groups like RIA groups and things where you could learn. It was probably 3 years into my career before I ever went to the first meeting and found, like-minded people and started learning like, oh, this is the way you do it. But because I was doing it myself, when I would get done with a project, I would have other investors would come by and look at the house, and they would ask, who did you use? I said, oh, I did the work. And then they would ask me, can I do this for them? Can I do that for them? And it worked out great for me because it became like side work while I was waiting for my house to sell. And that was how my construction company was born. But then as I wanted to do more quantity, I realized that I could not do more if I was on the job doing the work. So it just sort of morphed into a realization that if you want to go get more deals, you need to be out there, not inside the house. And my profit margin may have went down a little bit, but I was able to do quantity. So my overall the profitability dollar-wise went up extremely high. So it didn't take very long to realize that was the right way to go. And then once I started doing training with other people, you hear a lot of that the less I do, the more I make, or, just keep yourself out there finding deals. Don't do what you can pay somebody else to do. A lot of that kind of stuff. So once I started to realize that, and I did it for a little while, like I said, it didn't take very long to realize that that's the way to go.
What kind of relationship do you have with your contractors? I mean, are they employees of yours, or are they, for hire?
So I have employees, but most of what we do is through subcontractors. So for, painting and sheetrock, tile, plumbing, electrical, roof, all that, that's all different companies. So me hiring those guys is no different than any other investor hiring them. You have to vet them. You have to get referrals. You need to, the best way for me is to ask other real estate investors who they use, because I know that they're already doing the thing that I need done, and probably for the price that I need it done for. So that's, for me, has always been the best way to get new subcontractors. But I do have a few employees that can go out and do some of the basic stuff, and I might save a little bit of money doing it that way. But for the typical investor, I would just hire a contractor that has all those subs already versus finding each individual sub that you need. That's just a lot of work. If you can find a contractor that rehabs houses, then that's just gold. Then you're writing one check, you're dealing with one person, you're paying a little bit more of a premium price, but that one person manages everything for you. So if there's any problems, it's just so much easier to deal with. And plus, you don't have all these different companies coming at you saying, can I have a check? Can you pay me on Friday? I need to pay my guys. Can you pay me early? There's a lot of that stuff that goes on in the contracting world.
And then how long have you been doing this then? Is it 9 years?
Yeah, I started in 2006, real estate investing. So it's been about 12 years now.
12 years, okay. So I'm wondering, like, over that 12-year period, what kind of systems and processes have you added to your business that have made things go more efficiently?
Well, there's a few things. One of the things that I noticed is every time I needed to estimate the price of a house, it took quite a while. Now, being that I've done so many of them, I can kind of walk in and just look around and have an idea if it's a $40,000 rehab, $60,000 rehab. But the average investor can't do that. So I was trying to figure out a way to speed that up a little bit when I was helping people. And I came up with what's called the 10-minute estimate sheet, where somebody can just take a sheet of paper, walk through a house within about 10 minutes, and just fill out some answers. And then once they do, it has the number next to it. You do the math, you add it all up, and it gives you a price of what the rehab is going to cost. And we've kind of worked with that over the years and gotten it to be a pretty good sheet, to the point that when people do it now, they're within about 5% of what a contractor is going to charge you to do the rehab. That was something that really helped for the newer investors, helped build their confidence. And then the other thing that I was having to do myself was every time I had a rehab, I had to go to Lowe's or Home Depot, walk up and down the aisles, marking, like, what do I need, making a materials list. So it was taking almost 4 hours every time I was flipping a house in the store. And when the quantity of houses I was doing got so high, I felt like I just was going to Lowe's every single day. So I had created a sheet that had pretty much everything I would ever want to buy in Lowe's or Home Depot, and all the SKU numbers, the prices, and everything, so that I can just sit at my office and I can open up my computer, go down the list, mark I want 5 of these, 3 of these, 2 of these, make a materials list, and then email it over to the Home Depot or Lowe's, and that's it. The order comes the next day. And that takes me about 30 minutes, if that. So I went from driving to Lowe's, spending 4 hours there, driving back to the office, to 30 minutes in and out, done. All my materials for an entire rehab can be done.
That's a great way to offload all that work to the people who are working at Home Depot.
Exactly. Yeah, let them do it. I mean, it's about time. Time is money. I want to be out looking at deals constantly, and anything I can do to keep me out there looking at more deals is what I'm going to do.
Can you run us through the numbers that you look at as an investor? Like, what do you typically like to pay for a house? What do you typically put into it? And what do you hope to sell it for?
So that's a really good question, because every city is different. Everybody has a different median price of, average price of houses. And for here in Jacksonville, prices are really good for, living so close to an ocean and different theme parks and stuff that we have down here. But the median price, or the price that I really look for my end buyer, is somewhere around, I'd say like $150,000 to $280,000 is kind of my sweet spot. So whatever house I buy, I want to be able to buy it, fix it up, have a profit left over, and try to sell it inside that $150,000 to $280,000. I've done plenty that are over. I've done the $500,000 houses and stuff, and they'll sell, but the days on the market are much higher. Your buying pool's much smaller. The houses that are under 150, there's a lot more credit issues. Sometimes they don't get qualified. You have more deals that seem to fall through because of that. So I've just sort of gotten to where I stayed in that $150,000 to $280,000 range. As far as am I willing to pay, it all depends on how big a rehab is. I find that most of the time I'm buying houses for about half of what I'm going to end up selling it for, just as a really fast number. You want to break it down a little bit more. Most people know of the Mayo formula, which is 75% of ARV, which is after repaired value, minus whatever your repair is going to be. You can do that, and that's fine, but a lot of the experienced investors are going to outbid you, because we know what formula everybody's using. So we might use 75% or something like that, to try to outbid a lot of the newer investors or inexperienced investors. And when you start doing a lot, you start having a lot of quantity, the percentage isn't as important anymore as it is just the profitability. So for me, as long as it makes a profit, I'll probably do the deal. I'm not somebody who has a minimum profit they need to make. But if you're new and just getting started, you do want to have a minimum, because you're going to make more mistakes, and you want to have a little bit more of a cushion to protect yourself so that you don't lose any money.
And how are you finding all these properties? I mean, it seems like you have a very high volume of deals that you're doing at any given time.
So we have a team that does marketing for us. So one of the big things we do is the direct mail marketing that we'll do to out-of-state absentee owners. That's always worked really well for us. Probate letters have also worked well for us. A lot of people use bandit signs around here. We see them all over town. Having good relationships with wholesalers, because there's just dozens and dozens of them. I don't know how other cities are. I know here there's probably 50 to 100 wholesalers, but in reality, there's probably 10 that most people deal with, because so many wholesalers kind of come and go as a beginning of a way to get into real estate investing. But I have a good amount of wholesalers that I deal with. I probably buy a majority of my houses through wholesalers, just because of the relationships I've built with them. But just having signs on your vehicle, giving out your business cards, doing networking at anything that's real estate related, you never know where a deal is going to come from. There's even groups here in our city that have what's called deal-making sessions, where they'll have a meeting where anybody who has a deal can come and advertise that deal. And so you get a lot of people that go there and deals are made right there in the room.
Doing all these houses at once, you must have a lot of money tied up at any given time. How do you finance your acquisitions?
Well, as just like any business, as things grow, you acquire more capital. I started with nothing. I did deals where I was doing 80% cash out refis. I was putting some money in my pocket that way. Then I turned to straight flips. I put money in my pocket that way. Then I started doing some of my own wholesaling, and I just kind of accumulated capital. One of the things on a business end that I did that works very well is I treat my business as a separate person. So I make money, but my business has to make money as well. So it's not one of these things where the money comes in, I pay my expenses, and the rest of it's mine. I only pull out what I need, and I save the rest. And that has given me the ability to do the things that I'm able to do now, which like what you're saying is buy in high volume. That's really what I did to get there, is just I didn't get greedy with my own money. I just kept putting it back and putting it back. Now, when I have my own money, I have different things that I'll do with it. I might loan some out to another investor, so I think I can make points and interest on it. I might tie some up, doing a rehab. I've got to do the purchase as well as the rehab, so I've got to cover those costs. And if I have, say, too much money out where I don't feel like comfortable with what I have in the bank, because I want to keep a certain amount, to feel comfortable, then I'll go to a hard money lender. That I've used them so many times in the past. I've got good relationships with them that I can go to hard money lenders and I can get a pretty good rate and term with them because of my history and my experience. And I'll do that. I have no problem doing, leveraging and using somebody else's money if the deal still works. But I always try to use my own because obviously I will have no carrying cost and I'll make more money that way. But I like to have my money busy at all times. So there's plenty of times where I need to borrow.
Given what you're doing, I mean, you've got this strong construction background. You understand framed houses. You know how houses are built and what goes into them. But you also have to have your investor hat on at all times. How do you keep that in balance? I mean, how do you make both of those things work together?
It's funny because I actually wrote a book called, Dealing with Contractors, and how to stay on time and on budget. And it was just that. It was really that when I'm investing in houses, I always have my investor hat on. I very rarely have the contractor hat on because I'm not going to do the work. I'm just going to let somebody else do it, whether it's my company or what. I'm still not going to manage it. I'm going to have my superintendents manage it. My employees will work there. My subs will work there. But it's always about being on time, on budget. That's the two things that are the most important in this business. How can I get it done as fast as possible and stay within budget without sacrificing quality? That's really also important. So I'm thinking like an investor a lot more than I'm thinking like a contractor.
That's interesting. You wrote a book about working with contractors. What are some of your tips on working with contractors?
Well, there's so many of them. I can, and I'll be talking.
You can write a whole book on it.
Yeah, I can write a whole book. Yeah, and I'll be talking about that too at the event. So you'll get a lot of really good tips on this. But just to give you a couple of them. When you're asking for bids, especially in the beginning, for a new investor, they're always told go out and get 3 bids. But I like to tell the story from the contractor's point of view so that everybody understands what they're really doing. If you go out and ask for 3 bids, you're only going to give one of those people the job. So 2 people came out and looked at your job and didn't get it. And then the next time you get a job, you're going to ask 3 people to come bid the job. And because of familiarity, and we're creatures of habit, you're probably going to call the same 3 people. And you're more than likely going to end up going with the same person you went with the first time. So now you've brought somebody out there twice, 2 people out there twice that aren't going to get the job. After that, the third, if you're lucky to even get them out there the third time, that's probably going to be about the last time you can do that to them. You're going to have burnt the bridge with that contractor or subcontractor. So the issue is going to run into is the person that you're using. What happens if they get too busy on one of your projects and they can't get to it and you need to find somebody else? Who would you call? Because you're so familiar with the 2 people that you've been calling, you're probably going to call those people and they're going to give you a really high price or they're not going to want to mess with you at all because they're not going to believe that they're actually going to get the job. So one of the things I tell people, just be careful when you ask for 3 bids that, if you go out and get multiple bids, that's great. And I think you should do that, but just always know that 2 people aren't getting the job, or 3 people, or however many of them that you're going to turn down aren't going to get the job. It wouldn't hurt to maybe use a different one, say the second or third time, so that you have more than one person in your Rolodex that you can use to rely on. Because in this business, people come and go really fast, whether it's your roofer, painter, tile guy. I mean, one day they're in business and one day they're just gone. They run into money problems or business problems. They just get too busy, and it's always good to have other people to rely on, have a backup plan, have as many people on your team as possible. I mean, I've probably got 4 or 5 roofing companies, and just every trade out there is multiple for me. So if one's busy or can't get to me, or I just think their price is a little too high this time, I can easily pick up the phone and find another one. So you have to be careful of that, because now as a contractor, if somebody asks me to bid a job and I don't get it, and then they ask me to bid another one and I don't get it, I won't even go bid a third one, because the odds are that I'm probably not going to get it. So, and I tell them very nicely, I'm not mad, I'm not angry, I get it, but I'm so busy, I don't have time to keep bidding jobs that I'm not going to get. And that's the reality of it. So it's just something to watch out for.
That makes perfect sense. Do you have any contractor horror stories that you'd like to share? I've been so lucky, and I've had my business now for 11 years, my construction company for 11 years. And up until, I think, 2 months ago, I've never been, well, I still never have. I've never been sued. I've never had anybody even try to sue me, no mediation. I've never had anything bad like that. And I was able to say I've never had to put a lien on a property up until about 2 months ago, but it wasn't a malicious lien. It was really just something to protect myself because of the way we worked the deal out. But I've been lucky with that, because I work so hard on the front end with my customer to not have to go have a horror story at the end. We talk about what we're going to do. What's the expectation? When are you going to pay me? What's going to be done when you pay me? What are we going to do about change orders? We really go through on my contract how we're going to handle that so that those problems really can't come up. So I don't really have like any of those kind of horror stories. I'd say the worst horror story I have, and I'll condense it down quite a bit, is it's not really as a contractor, it's more as an investor, is that I walked into a house once, went through the entire house checking every single room, and in the very last room that I checked, there was a man hiding behind the door. And because I had come in the back door because I couldn't get the front door open, it scared me, and I ran. And when I ran, he chased me, and I was running to the front door. So when I got to the front door, I couldn't get it open. And I had a clipboard in my hand, and I turned and I yelled at him. I said, "Freeze!" And he threw his hands up and said, "Don't shoot." And it's the funniest thing. I don't know what made me do it or why that happened like that, but it scared me quite a bit, and I managed to get the door open and go out. And the guy was harmless. He needed a place to stay. His girlfriend kicked him out or something. But it's the first time I ever walked through a house and had a person hiding inside of it. That would scare me too. That's not what you want to find. Yeah. So,
no.
So what advice do you have for our listeners who are, either doing this or want to get into flipping and rehabbing? What would you say to them about getting started?
So here's what I would really say, because this is what I went through. You're going to be afraid when you get started. There's a fear. I call it analysis paralysis, where you just kind of can't pull the trigger because you're nervous. That doesn't go away. It doesn't go away until you do the first deal, second deal, probably the third deal. After that, it starts to go away. For me, after 5 deals, I wasn't nervous anymore. It really just became numbers. Don't let the nerves get the best of you. If the numbers work and you do your due diligence, then go with it and do it. Just don't keep second guessing yourself. If you do everything that you need to do research wise and you see that it's going to work out, just go for it. You've got to, because all I keep thinking is I wish I'd started sooner, and how many deals did I lose because I just wouldn't pull the trigger fast enough. That would be the number one thing, is just not, don't worry about the fear. It'll go away. And the other thing is, I see everybody worried about the money. They worry about finding the money. I got to find somebody who's going to loan me money before they ever get into the real estate investing. And I keep telling them, you just go find the deal. If you find the deal, the money just is there. The money is the easiest part of the whole thing, because the lenders aren't really lending on you. They're lending on the deal. So the example I give when I'm teaching is, if you walked up to a person out of the blue and said, can I borrow money? I'd like to go buy some real estate. What are the odds they'll give it to you? Versus if you walk up to somebody and say, I have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house that I can buy for $50,000. I can put 50 into it and sell it for 200. Will you loan me the money on the house? There's a bigger chance of them saying yes to that than the first question. So don't get hung up on you have to find the money first. Just find the deal and you'll be able to find the money.
Well, I really appreciate and enjoy your kind of no-nonsense attitude toward flipping and rehabbing. I mean, it's very refreshing. And I want to repeat again that you're going to be speaking at the conference, the annual Real Estate Landlord and Real Estate Investor Free Conference here in Grand Rapids, Michigan. The conference is February 21st through 23rd of 2019. Which day are you going to be speaking?
I'll be there on the third day.
The third day,
at
so
the end
Saturday.
of it, I believe I'm actually the last speaker.
Oh, Saturday.
I get to close it all out.
Perfect,
Yeah.
perfect. The keynote, or I guess we go out with a bang then. February 23rd,
Right.
that Saturday. You can go to rpoaonline.org to register for free and find out more information. That's rpoaonline.org. And Cameron, just give our listeners an idea of why they should come hear you speak.
Well, it doesn't matter if you're wanting to flip for selling, or if you want to flip because it's rental property you want to accumulate. Every house needs work when you're going to buy a distressed property. So come out, let me talk to you. I want to give you some good tips on rehabbing, whether you're going to do rental property or you're going to flip it. I want to talk to everybody about dealing with contractors and give them a lot of tips from a contractor so that they can know how to get better discounts, how they can get their job done, how they can find the right contractor, where to find them, just really how to get the process done. Because a lot of people are struggling with contractors, and there's always these horror stories of people getting burned by them, and I want to help people to be able to find the right ones and do that. And just how to be successful in real estate investing, because there's nothing better out there than that. It's completely changed my life financially. My daughter's life is going to be changed, forever. Everything. It's just done wonders for me, and I would not have been able to do it without real estate. So I just want to share my story and my experiences with everybody out there so that can help them.
Well, thank you for sharing your story and experiences with us today. I mean, it's been a pleasure talking to you and learning about how you got started, how you got abandoned in what was it, North Carolina, outside a hotel room.
Yeah.
and just the journey from there to where you are today. So I cannot wait to hear you come speak at the annual conference. Once again, it's rpoaonline.org. Check it out. You can register for free. Cameron, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure, and I can't wait to see everybody.
This episode was sponsored by Green Property Management, managing everything from single-family homes to apartment complexes in the West Michigan area. Find out more at greenpropertymgt.com. And Mike Murphy at JB Harrison Insurance, helping real estate investors to understand and choose their best options for all their insurance needs. Call 616-868-0050 or email MikeM@jbhins.com.
You've been listening to the Rental Property Owner and Real Estate Investor Podcast, brought to you by the Rental Property Owner Association. You can find out more at rpoaonline.org. If you enjoyed this podcast, please go to iTunes to subscribe, rate, and review.